Central Park, one of New York City's most iconic treasures, a place known for beauty, escape, and renewal in the heart of the city. But that experience has not been universal for everyone.
Once upon a time, we were thought as the lowest people on earth. And I mean that. People thought about us as that. We didn't believe that in ourselves.
In 1989, 5 Black and Latino teenagers, Corey Wise, Antron McCrae, Raymond Santana, Yusef Salam, and Kevin Richardson, were wrongfully accused and convicted of beating and raping a jogger in Central Park in one of the most infamous cases in American history. At the time, they became known as the Central Park Five, but today, they are recognized as the Exonerated Five. As teenagers, they were interrogated for hours by the New York City Police Department and coerced into false confessions, despite the absence of physical evidence linking them to the crime. This case not only devastated their lives, but fundamentally reshaped how Central Park and the justice system itself were understood by Harlem, turning a public space into a symbol of fear, mistrust, and injustice for an entire community. Each member of the Exonerated Five spent between 6 to 13 years in prison before they were exonerated on December 19, 2002. This history remained unresolved for decades, but 3 years ago, the Central Park Conservancy acknowledged it. On December 19, 2022, exactly 20 years since the exoneration of the 5 men, the Gate of the Exonerated was unveiled at Central Park's northern entrance, a permanent marker honoring those who were wrongfully convicted, and the 5 men whose case forced the city to confront a painful truth. For people who grew up in Harlem, the case shaped how Central Park was seen and who felt safe inside it. Marquise Alexander Harrison, chairman of Manhattan Community Board 10, grew up in Harlem during the years when those narratives were still unfolding.
That incident really branded the park, and I think in my district, in my community in Harlem, like as a negative place, because as it became a safer place in the late 90s and, and certainly in the 2000s, it was still a place that people saw as like, you don't want to be there because things can happen or you can be accused of something. And so especially for young Black men.
Kevin Richardson was one of the 5 teenagers wrongfully convicted in the 1989 case. He described what he felt when he personally unveiled the gate.
Walking at just a sense of pride that I think about my ancestors and people that was before me that fought and stood for their rights, and to have this meaningful wall that was so precisely done. I stand with pride that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Richardson also described the conversations he had with his daughter when he took her to the gate for the first time after it was unveiled.
The conversations I had with my daughter was that even if you have these things stacked against you, look what can happen if you just stay true to yourself and always be a person that's righteous.
From the beginning of the gate's drafting process, Richardson says that the intention was never to center only on the Exonerated Five.
We only had one thing we wanted, was for it not to be about the Exonerated Five. It was to be about everyone that has been exonerated, because the word exonerate to mean to be set free.
John Reddick, Director of Community Engagement at the Central Park Conservancy, says the gate holds significant historic weight beyond the case itself.
No gate had been named since Lincoln was president. But originally 20-some names were named and no more since. And so this was something that would be historically significant.
According to Harrison, the gate's installation has marked a turning point in how his community relates to the park today.
I walk by ever so often, not all the time, but whenever I go, I've never gone by and not seen someone taking a picture in front of it. Even myself, because people are taking pictures, and I sometimes document the people taking their pictures in front of it, because I think that shows a great deal of significance of what that gate means.
3 years ago, we really didn't, we did understand the importance of it, but to see it afterwards and see like the legacy that we have left behind and still leaving behind, because we're still present, we're still here, we're still living in the moment. So that alone, just walking through that park and, knowing that we're here to make a change for people and change people's lives. And one thing we always wanted to do was inspire people. And I think we did our job.
For Stephanie Palmer, a longtime resident of Central Harlem and elected official on Manhattan's Community Board 10, the impact of the gate has only become clearer with time. She told a Fordham University journalism student, quote, 3 years before this happened, I couldn't pass by the park and not think about what happened to those boys. So now, it's almost healing, and I was able to let go of that feeling of dread. Reddick says large institutions taking steps like implementing this gate are rare, especially when asked to confront a history of harm.
As an African American involved in it, I just thought there'd be a long time in my life before I see any other institutions start with a complaint and turn it into something that complaining audience really saw as a meaningful gesture. I feel like this is a gift back not only to them. There's other people who've been in similar situations that feel like their story someday, the possibility they could have the same healing process and the give back, that the broader community acknowledges there was an unfairness.
Today, another member of the Exonerated Five, Yusuf Salam, now serves on the New York City Council representing Harlem's District 9. In an April 2025 email to a Fordham University journalism student, Salam said, quote, "For so many years, Central Park symbolized a trauma and injustice, a place that had left an incredible scar in my life. But with this gate, that narrative is being transformed." Salam continued to state, quote, "I truly appreciate the efforts the Conservancy has made to recognize the cultural and historical significance of the park, especially its acknowledgement of places like Seneca Village, a thriving Black community that was erased to make way for Central Park. That sensitivity matters. Continued efforts to include diverse voices in the decision-making and programming will ensure that the park becomes a more inclusive space." But Richardson says that to prevent incidents like the Exonerated Five from occurring in the future, acknowledgement alone is not enough.
The first thing I think is accountability. We have to be accountable for what we do to people and own up to that. And I think in my case, if accountability would have been done back in 2002, when they realized that my case was overturned, things might have been a little different today.
When asked what gives him hope for the future, Richardson points to his family and the next generation.
My children, my family, looking into their eyes, and they look at me as a superhero. They look at me as someone that could change the world, and I can't let them down. They keep me going every day. But also, I see the youth, and I look at them as my children as well, extended children that we could really work together and change. So that gives me hope that we have people that's coming behind me that will make a change.
Harrison hopes the gate continues to stand as both a reminder and a promise to the entirety of New York City.
I hope that it marks what is the beginning of just the recognition of historical injustice that has taken place, right? And not that we can change it, but certainly that we should remember it.
For Councilmember Salam, this gate represents a reckoning, both for Central Park and for the institutions that shape public space in New York City. In his email, he wrote, quote, "This gate is a correction to the historical record. It tells the story that for too long was ignored or buried. The Gate of the Exonerated shows that Central Park can be a place of truth and transformation. It's a reminder that our institutions, whether parks, courts, or governments, must reflect the realities and dignity of all people. To me, it feels like the arc of the moral universe bending toward justice, right there at the entrance of one of the world's most iconic spaces." Richardson has a message he hopes people take with them.
Stay tuned, because we're not done. When people usually receive these gates and this honor, it's for people that's not here. We're very much alive. So we're looking forward to working with other people and making these things happen more often.